Please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. Fellows, lords, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome all fellows and foreign members and their guests, the representatives of national science academies from all over the world, and our many other distinguished guests. This convocation of the Fellowship is the central formal event of the Royal Society's 350th anniversary year. It's a chance to celebrate the Society's contributions to scientific life ever since 1660, and more broadly, to celebrate science itself, its intrinsic fascination and its global impact on how we think and live. In 1960, the Society celebrated its tercentenary. It was honoured then by the presence of Her Majesty the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. That they should both be with us again in 2010, together with other members of the royal family, makes this a very special occasion indeed. They will join us shortly, but before they do, I would like to welcome Melvyn Bragg, Lord Bragg of Wigton, to give him his full title. He has recently joined our select group of honorary fellows. He's the chairman of our 2010 anniversary board, and in that role he's overseen, with his expert eye, the development and delivery of the splendid and wide-ranging programme of events with which we are celebrating our anniversary year. I therefore, with great pleasure, invite Melvyn to introduce the next part of the convocation. Melvyn.
Thank you very much. Fellows, lords, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Royal Festival Hall and to the Convocation of the Fellowship, where today we celebrate the 350th anniversary of the Royal Society in the presence, as our President has said, of our Royal Patron, Her Majesty the Queen, and the Royal Fellows. It's a very significant moment in the long and distinguished history of this great science academy. An event like this hasn't taken place for 50 years and may well not take place for another 50 years. We have laid before us on that table, the very table on which Robert Hooke did some of his early experiments in the 1660s. So imagine it crowded with the earliest microscopes, and Hooke doing the experiments, and Newton and Wren and all those around him. That's what was going on that table. We have some of the Society's significant treasures. And looking down on us, from the wall behind us, we have Charles II, Isaac Newton, Joseph Banks, Robert Boyle, and Charles Darwin. 8 out of a dauntingly large 8,000 fellows, large until you think that that was accumulated over 350 years. It's a unique pedigree. The mace was given to the Society on its foundation in 1660 by Charles II. The silver bell was presented by Her Majesty 50 years ago and is rung to signal the beginning of all the important ceremonies at the Society, and it has just been magnificently well rung today. And the Charter Book is symbolic of the long history of a society, containing, as it does, the signature of nearly every scientist who has been a fellow. Shortly, Prince William will be admitted as a Royal Fellow and will add his signature to that book, the Book of Explorers of the New Knowledge. But before that happens, we're going to take a filmed look at the work of the Society and some of the wide range of things we've done to celebrate this anniversary. As Martin said, he invited me to be chairman of the Anniversary Board, which has been advising on the bold and ambitious programme of events which we've undertaken to celebrate this year, a programme of over 1,500 individual events across the country and right around the world. It's been an astonishing gathering of forces. Its aim throughout the year has been to show the Society to a wider public, engage more people with science, and reassert the position of science at the centre of mainstream culture. Through broadcasts, the printed word, exhibitions, lectures and events, literally millions of people have been brought closer to science and to the global and distinguished work of this society. The BBC's World of Wonder Year, for instance, that year of science programmes, catalysed by the Society's anniversary, has given the viewing public many opportunities to become familiar with science, and they've done so in large numbers. The book of essays, Seeing Further, edited by Bill Bryson, has outsold all expectations, with publication in the US and Canada to come. The 4 programmes on Radio 4 last January covered the history of the Royal Society and announced its anniversary, and was very highly acclaimed both here and in the United States. The Royal Mail has honoured us with a special issue of 10 first-class, of course, stamps, and we've even sent a piece of Newton's apple tree into space. The centrepiece of all these public celebrations, all about the Royal Society, is Seeing Further, the Festival of Science and Arts, which we've undertaken in partnership with the South Bank Centre, which is at the centre, and it's our summer science exhibition. It's here in this building. It's conceived to change the way people of all backgrounds think about science and its role as a source of human inspiration. And I hope you will enjoy the exhibition later today and in days to come. These exhibitions are the best thing about the London season. They're the new injection of intellectuality into that London season. They're an amazing display of the power and depth and strength of science in this country, seeing people from all over the place bringing their work, showing what they're doing, right at the edge of work. It's very, very impressive and quite moving in its way. And it's a good story, not often enough told. Finally, at its core of what we've been trying to do has been a strong scientific programme. One result, for instance, has been that the Society has seen registrations to attend discussion meetings rise by more than 80%. And on a wider canvas, we hope we've succeeded in changing the national conversation about science. Thank you very much.
Most of what makes our lives different from that of our ancestors 350 years ago is due to science. In this coming century, we are going to have to apply science in order to cope with a growing population on this world, each person being more demanding of energy and resources. So the way science is applied is crucial to whether the world has a bright future. The wider public will become more aware of what we do and of the importance of what we do through the events that we've been having during this year.
The Fellows are the heart of the Society. It is what the Society was founded for and what it exists for to this very day. They are the ones that are on our council. They are part of our specialist working groups. They advise us, they provide peer review, and very, very much involved in the day-to-day work of the Society.
An absolutely massive exercise.
It's really very, very important that we do ensure that there are giants coming through the system in the future. So we spend probably 3/4 of our resources on supporting young postdoctoral researchers, giving them the freedom to pursue their research, giving the opportunity to develop their ideas.
We currently spend approximately £48 million each year. The vast majority of that goes on our early career fellowships.
Anything where the Royal Society provides an imprimatur, an approval of what you're doing, therefore is a tremendous personal satisfaction, but also is an endorsement of your professional abilities.
Enormous privilege of becoming the Royal Society Wolfson Research Professor back in 1991. And that gave me the opportunity to do what I truly love doing, which is getting it to the lab, out into the laboratory, get into the lab bench and actually do my own experiments. So I may be getting on in years, but I'm still very much an active bench scientist. And without the protection and the encouragement afforded by the Royal Society, that would not have happened.
The innovation course is interesting to me. I do have some business background, and it's quite interesting to learn how very wrongly I went about my business endeavours in the past. And this is not only sort of giving me ideas how to go about finding partners, but actually it just tells you the vocabulary you should be using and the way you should be presenting your work if you want to get into proper conversation with people who might give you backing.
In this country, our continued prosperity will depend on harnessing scientific ideas to be innovative and ensure that we can compete with the rest of the world in developing new technology for the benefit of all nations.
The scientific discussion meetings are the core scientific programme of the Royal Society.
And if I show you...
One of the scientific discussion meetings this year was handling uncertainty in science, and we were very pleased to have the Governor of the Bank of England here talking about how scientific uncertainty has such an impact on the wider world.
I think the discussion meetings are important because they are almost invariably discussing important topics for the day, both in science and in society. They're well attended, the quality of the speakers is remarkably high, and the debates usually really quite informative and lively.
If you talk to intelligent people from other areas of activity, not even necessarily scientists, every so often you get a really interesting question, and if you have this diversity of people, you get a much broader range of questions of that kind.
I think these are really important meetings. As you see from the audience that we've got today, it brings together the young scientists, the experienced scientists, and we have scientists from across all of the disciplines. So it's great to see that interaction, and I think only these kind of meetings can really achieve that. So it's a nice thing to be doing in the 350th anniversary year.
It's the fellows and the scientists who have the most important role in developing science policy, and it is really important, we feel, that it is scientists who speak on behalf of science.
The outcome of this is the report, The Scientific Century, being launched this morning.
Even if we only count the economic benefits to be had, science is a fantastic investment. When we add in all the extras that we get, the intellectual life, the culture, the social environment that makes the UK a great place to be, investing in science is a fantastic thing to be doing, and the report lists and highlights many of the reasons why.
We need a broadly educated, scientifically literate population, as well as an education system that produces the PhDs, FRSs and Nobel Prize winners of the future.
Today we're having what is an annual event for us. We've brought the scientists and indeed a lot of their equipment and materials out from the laboratories, which are somewhere in the basements of the BM, into the Great Court, and as you can see we've set out tables and to explain some of the work that goes on to allow us to examine materials in the collections.
I think in the general public it's really good because they're obviously coming along and seeing more of the, let's say, the background of what's happening in the museum rather than just coming and seeing an exhibit.
Hey, look! Yeah, and they have switches. I saw the square ones inside the square glass was dead.
Science is something which, of course, is appreciated by people of all ages, but the society is quite rightly especially concerned about education, because the next generation of scientists will only get a good start if their education from their earliest years is appropriate.
We're working very much with the Department for Education to encourage improvements in the science curriculum. We have programmes to support schools and particularly to support teachers.
In terms of outreach activities, we have partnership grants, which is the award of up to £3,000 to a school and a partner scientist or engineer. And basically what we are looking to do here is to inspire and bring alive science to students in schools. This actually helps to not only reinvigorate sort of the teacher's idea of science and why they went into science teaching, but also it makes the students actually have direct contact with real scientists, real engineers.
You've got to watch where the water's going.
David is definitely the brains behind the operation because we have big ideas of what we'd like to see, but he could tell us how we could do it and what we would get from it. So he's very much the brains, the chief engineer, I call him. What happens next, Keely?
As far as our school is concerned, the partnership grant is an opportunity to bring the outside in and to take the children outside. You never know, in 50 years' time, they might be sitting in the audience at the Convocation as the Fellows of the Future for the Royal Society.
Keely, Precious, Joel, Matthew, Caitlin, Lewis.
Do you have to use a lot of energy with that? Do you think you might need to go a bit faster to get the water up there?
Yeah, there we go.
The original idea was we're Watermill Primary School, and the head would love us to have a watermill because it fits with the name.
Miss, what does this do?
You know you've got this pot of money and you can actually be very much more creative because it is different.
I think scientists are tremendously creative people. One good example is Isaac Newton. This is the manuscript of the Principia Mathematica, his great work where he expounds his ideas on gravity, the laws of motion, and many, many other things. We have in this building one of the finest collections of scientific portraits in the world, and these fellows in the portraits take us back to the very beginnings of the Society in 1660.
Well, Oldenburg came up with the idea of a journal shortly after he took up office as the first secretary of the Society. And in fact, it was in 1665 that he published the first edition of what he called Philosophical Transactions. What Oldenburg did, in fact, was to invent the very first scientific journal in the world. Two concepts that the early journal embodied were one, peer review, and two, scientific priority. And that journal continues to be published today, 350 years almost after Oldenburg first launched it. We actually have 7 journals in the portfolio in total. Next year we'll be launching a new one. We're working quite enthusiastically now to reduce the amount of paper we're sending around the world, and we are trying to encourage our subscribers to take the online edition only, because the reader is now able to do multiple searches by title, by keywords, by authors. They're able to look at supplementary data sets posted by the authors or video clips of their experiments. They're now able to watch podcasts based on the articles, perhaps interviews with the authors.
Almost all scientific issues nowadays are global issues, whether they're climate change or energy or whatever, and we need global networks. The International Academy panel, of which we are a member, met here at the beginning of the year for a conference on biodiversity, and also they held their General Assembly here. So we had the world's top scientists both discussing science and thinking about the policy behind science.
Sir Martin, how nice to see you. Yes, how are you?
I'm Kurt Lambeck. I'm the president of the Australian Academy of Science.
I'm the president of the Nigerian Academy of Science.
I'm from Pakistan. I'm the president of the Indian National Science Academy.
I'm the president-elect of the Leopoldina, the German National Academy.
These sort of things, I think, are great. And it is my hope that such networking will continue through different programs in the future.
The King Charles II Medal is awarded to foreign heads of state at the discretion of council. It's awarded only in exceptional circumstances to foreign heads of state who have furthered the scientific research within their own country, and it is normally made on the occasion of a state visit to the UK.
Lords, ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite Her Excellency Dr. Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, to join me on the stage to collect the King Charles II Medal.
Lord Ries, sehr verehrte Festversammlung, Exzellenzen, meine Damen und Herren, ich freue mich sehr, dass ich heute hier in der Royal Society bin.
We are using this anniversary not only to celebrate our past, but as a peg, as it were, on which we can latch a lot of events which we hope will raise public interest in science.
Anniversaries are important. I mean, they're fundamental to human beings. It's important to mark that anniversary, to celebrate that occasion. And we've got a programme called Local Heroes, which is engaged with lots of museums and galleries right the way across the country, and is about celebrating fellows and their achievements.
And through dabbling with various chemicals, I discovered the very first man-made dyes.
Brings to life stories that we know people will find interesting and fun and educational,
unless they came here and maybe interacted with us, they wouldn't even know about them. So it's a world of discovery.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Yes, but we're all made of tiny particles, atoms, and it were the ancient Greeks that decided that that was so.
And we were just doing a performance before about idols and heroes, and after we've done our little performances often, in fact, that family of little children said, "Could we come home with you?"
Oh,
it was almost
yes.
as if suddenly scientists were cool.
We need to celebrate the fact that this extraordinary institution exists, that it has this incredibly august 350-year history, but really the emphasis has to be on the future. It has to be on young scientists, excellent young minds that are going to solve the problems that we're going to face over the next century.
I hope that by the end of the year we will have ramped up our impact and our level of activities to a higher level, and that will continue. But I also hope that the events we've organised during the year will have had an impact on many people, young and old.
We find ways to make sure people can't copy our money.
I think it's really important to show that museums can do proper science, that we can do curriculum-linked science and we can do it in an exciting and an engaging manner.
We've learned a lot about the different properties of different kinds of metals.
And like how Isaac Newton contributed to the Warden Mint and how they make counterfeit coins.
Science is reaching a bigger audience, it's reaching people that perhaps had already said, I don't want to do science, it's boring. It's the fact that with this anniversary, the profile of science in the Royal Society has risen so much, and it means that people who weren't interested are now engaged in science.
We start at the school level in doing what we can for school education, but one very distinctive thing we do is try to support many of the leading young scientists who are, if they're successful, going to maintain